Hey guys, and welcome to an episode of Help the Nation with Mark Bulmer, where basically I review the state of the nation and I give some good advice on how to improve our situation. So, you know, um, and when I say, okay, I'm a citizen of three nations, and so at this moment, I'm going to talk about the United States because it's the nation that needs the most remediation. Um, from my perspective, and given the situation, um, you see, there's Iran that's closing off the Strait of Hormuz, which is basically going to remove the petrodollar system. So they're going to take the oil, they're going to prevent the shipment of oil, and then they're going to be forcing the merchants to sell the oil in yuan. Now, this will expedite the end of the imperial hegemony on oil and the world reserve currency. So America will no longer be a world hegemon, like this imperial power that's trying to constrict the world, that's trying to strangle the world, not really contribute to the world, but be parasitic on the world, and sort of like leech off of people's need for these basic commodities, and then use force to kind of like muscle our way into that situation to get that kind of grip on the situation. So because this is happening now, this allows America to take a different direction. It allows us to actually live up to the anti-imperial aspiration we had when we left England to create, a nation of egalitarian, more egalitarian than you see today with the income inequality. That's basically like we had never left England. Like we wound up right back in England and North America with a gross inequality. You don't have kings, you have CEOs. And so this was the the wars that began after 9/11. So if you imagine what Iran is doing right now, it's basically closing off 20% of the oil supply to the world, and it's telling the United States has had a grip on this oil for so long that it no longer does. And that was what was underpinning a lot of the value of the currency when it came to exchange, because people had to give up a lot in order to get those dollars to get the oil, because everybody needed oil. Now they don't have to do that. And so that's a major relief for developing countries in the long run. But for America, imagine 9/11 was perpetrated by the CIA. We knocked down our own towers in order to justify 7 wars in the Middle East in 5 years. And then you have trillions of dollars being spent, millions of lives being lost. And at the end of it, you're off of the petrodollar anyway. So this idea that you're going to strangle the Middle East for the oil, is now a moot point, because the Middle East is selling their oil to China, or through Iran, or to Russia. Basically, and basically, there's no reason now with Iran. I mean, Iran is changing the situation. That's important to discern, that because Iran is now being able to close off the Strait of Hormuz, they're able to lift off the petrodollar system. Effectively, all Saudi Arabia, all these Emirates, all these guys that had supposedly protection of the U.S., they had to sell their oil in dollars. They're being shown that's not the case, and now so you have all these Emirates, and the ones that don't get destroyed, they'll be, they'll have an opportunity to sell in yuans, and so why wouldn't they do that? And so now, the idea that the dollar, the vat, now that's gonna push down the value of the dollar, because so much of the value of the dollar was tied to having this stranglehold on the oil supply of the world. So you saw what happened in Venezuela, same thing, oil over there. Oh man, if we have that's the last, like, major world reserve, we can knock that out. Oh, we have the stranglehold on the whole global oil supply. And it's so, but there's karma. And so now, it's such a, such a wasteful, greedy endeavor to be a parasitic empire, to choke the oil supply and try to be the world reserve currency while not actually contributing. So it's almost like America gets a fresh start. This is like blessing in disguise. It seems harsh. It seems really harsh that so much is being lost. That you had all this sacrifice, and it was going to be all in the name of an American, like, glory and strength, because it's real money. You're talking real money, but it's at the expense of what? It's at the expense of ripping off all these countries, and then uh, trying to, not those countries, but the whole world that's dependent on oil. Not only is it like we're using Israel to beat up on countries all over the Middle East that want to pursue their own policy, but then it's just like, the whole world that is dependent on that oil supply is being squeezed because America has the whole control of it. So this is the fact that all the suffering happened in the Middle East because of America, and now that whole system is being undone anyway, is kind of a blessing for America from a moral point of view, that all of that effort was in vain, because it came to light that, there's a better path than strangling the world for the oil supply. All these other countries, deserve better. America shouldn't be, doing this to the world. And so, and then 9/11, and like, the fact that we're doing this, like, these really, shady games in order to pretend like we're under attack, in order to just, like, it's really so, it's like anxiety ridden. It's anxiety ridden foreign policy. Like, we have to be so exceptional. Like, we have to act out. Like, we're so above and this is the mentality of, like, an empire that's kind of like gonna obviously be waning. It's a 5% population of the world. You know what I mean? And then it's like, but your whole narrative has been building this greatest of all, and that's like, you keep pushing that button all the time, and it's like, before you know it, people are acting stupid. They're not thinking long term what's actually good strategy. And so that to me is why you got 9/11. This anxiety ridden, ideology heavy, fume lifting kind of anxiety about remaining in first place, that's what you have to do, that's like, but it's so desperate when it's revealed that you're like, oh man, if I just, like, smoked a little more weed that day, maybe I wouldn't have, been like, hey guys, we have to come up with this false flag so that we can start continuing the war on the Middle East for the oil that the British started. We're really going to ramp that one up, because, America needs to show the world how strong it is to grab the world's oil and resources, that nobody's going to get in the way of it no matter what. And so it's like we're already in that moment, we're already pursuing this you know, we're already feeding into the neo-colonial thing that we said that we were trying to run away from England. So England is this colonial system, and now we're acting like some colonial master. But there's China over there freeing the world, being the actual like revolutionary for the people kind of thing. We the people, blah 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 blah. And what's happening now is how our system is turning it into blah 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 blah. Whereas China, their we the people is actually a we the people. So, guys, this is a blessing in disguise. This crisis seems harsh. This closing off of the Hormuz Strait seems fairly harsh, but it is going to allow America to pursue a totally different foreign policy than could have been imagined previously. It's undoing the 9/11 era completely. Iran is undoing everything that has happened since 9/11. It's almost like all the damage that 9/11 did to the Middle East, all of the stuff that America stole from the Middle East as a result of 9/11 is now being nullified by Iran. So in the end, when these soldiers would have to be ashamed of the role they played in ripping off the Middle East, now turns out they're not going to have to be, and that everything is going to turn out okay. America's still going to succeed. It's going to put the money into the space program. It's going to develop its own communities. It's going to have way more money to pour into infrastructure that if you go on YouTube, look up America's infrastructure is crumbling. This is unbelievable third world kind of stuff, and this is so unacceptable. We have 1 out of 6 kids going to bed hungry. We have homelessness crisis. I mean, the ER has waiting times. People are going bankrupt in the U.S. over medical expenses. People are losing their minds. The middle class has been destroyed. Automation, outsourcing. It's the West is in decline. China is on the rise, and this time, because of what's going on right now and the pressure it's going to generate on inflation, people are going to become more upset that groceries are expensive, fuel is expensive. It's gonna bubble up and force the government to basically begin to tax the rich, to put the money into the infrastructure, to take care of the basic needs of the population that are coming under increasing strain, especially with the shock in the oil prices. So, guys, this is it's a revolutionary time in my sense that there's a really, really great opportunity. I was joking today. I was saying Donald Trump, he's the most progressive president that we've ever seen, because he basically undid the petrodollar, freeing the world from American, strangulation, which allows America to turn a new page. So the fact that Iran is now dismantling this grip, this death grip on the world, suddenly we can start rethinking what we're actually doing in the world in terms of foreign policy. Do we need to be this neo-colonial power? No, we don't have to be. We're going to be much better off at relating to other nations, trading with other nations, having them have our best interests in mind. The arms industry gets thrown into the space industrial complex, where they make way more money. So these socialist budgets in the military industrial complex, where they have military arms production in every state, so that it's almost incentive for them to keep passing these arms bills, and then somebody's lobbying for a war to keep the mill churning kind of thing. You change that system, you throw that into the space industrial complex. That's where the mills are, and you're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into that's actually going to be of benefit, not just that's going to go into wasteful spending, destroying nations, for no reason, like running around Middle Eastern countries for 20 years, destroying villages, coming back home with nothing accomplished except the transfer of tax money from the population to the arms industry. Now that transfer from the taxpayer goes to the space industrial complex. They're kicking trillions into space, but you're going to be building asteroid mining. You're going to be building platforms in space. You're going to be throwing satellites into space, protecting Earth, and that's the future. The future is not the military industrial complex. The future is the space industrial complex. So that's another great revelation. And yeah, so guys, thanks for watching. It's already 15 minutes. It's starting to get late over here. I just wanted to make a quick video. I want to start delving into these topics more in depth. I'm starting to write a paper about this, but this is a historic time. The end of the 9/11 era, Iran undoing all of 9/11 basically, and now America can have a fresh start and really begin to pursue a more agreeable relation to the world, like so